This is the story of one day at a peaceful camp set up in the Canadian temperate rainforest. The camp had been there for years, during which time hundreds of individuals came to witness the beauty of the area, make record of the remaining old growth in the forest, and protest the destruction of the industrial logging practices of a company called Interfor. The company wanted an injunction to deny access to the area to any Canadian or anyone else who was not an employee of Interfor or a numbered representative of the Western Canada Wilderness Committee. On September 15, 1999, while Interfor lawyers argued in court, Interfor employees took matters into their own hands. 100 men came to the camp, attacking those present and destroying everything they could find. The testimonies of some of those present follows, and they are a testament to the obstacles faced by people who want to save the remaining ancient temperate rainforests of British Columbia.
I witnessed 40 trucks, I believe, were Interfor doors on the side, but that's not even enough trucks to contain all the loggers that came up. The loggers began to walk down the hill. Some more came in from the back. One person inside of our camp all of a sudden turned into a logger who had just showed up that morning, claiming to be a Sierra Club member. And then they proceeded to destroy the satellite phone. Then after that, they went through, systematically began eliminating camera gear and any evidence of what was about to happen. A woman was severely assaulted. They actually tried to pull the camera bag through her neck off on the strap, and 5 men held her down and beat her with another man who was trying to hold her and protect her.
I was attacked by Interfor employees, the loggers. I had a camera. I was videotaping, trying to document evidence of their plot to come and attack our camp. I had everything on tape, them planning to come and get the camera for me. That was the first thing they said they needed to do. They were talking about violent acts towards me, raping me, beating the shit out of me, etc., etc. I stood strong. I held on to the camera, and I wanted to get this on tape because we knew it was going to turn violent. So my intention was to use the tape later on, should we need to. And I started backing up immediately once I saw the Interfor employees approaching the camp. I was walking backwards and got somebody to watch my back for me. When I turned around, I noticed that I was surrounded by loggers, so I was looking for my way to get out. I kind of weaved through a bunch of men. Someone grabbed the strap once. I got away. 2 other men grabbed the strap. It broke the camera. It split it literally like in half. And so I then put the camera in between my arms like this on my chest and ran over to an area that there was some tarps and kind of crouched down a little bit. One of the Interfor employees came and started pulling the tarp down. I thought he was going to smother me with it or wrap me in it or something. So I got out of there, and I then noticed a friend of mine had been knocked down, so I went over to comfort him, holding onto the camera all this time, trying to figure out how I was going to get out of there. And when I stood up, and my friend stood up, my friend handed me his digital camera. I wrapped it around my wrist, and then a whole bunch of men came after me to get the camera. I don't even know how many. There were maybe 10. And I went down to the ground with the camera in between my arms like this, pressed up on my chest. My friend wrapped himself around me to protect me. A friend wrapped himself around him to protect him. So there was 3 of us on the ground, being kicked and punched and kneed in the back. I was on the bottom of all of this, so I was being crushed on my knees with the camera in my chest. So I've got severe bruising to my ribs that goes right through the back. I have these injuries on me. I've got massive bruising all over my legs, my ankles. My ligaments are twisted in my ankles. I've got bruises on my arms, bruises on my head, bruises on my heart, bruises everywhere. And they planned on doing this. I can't see why 100 men would show up there without the intention of doing some damage.
Did you know any of
I got out of my car to witness and be closer and see what was happening. I was thrown into the ditch. I managed to get the door shut on my car. Then they broke into my vehicle from the other side again. Stole another 10 cameras, an Interfor radio that was worth over $1,000 that we'd purchased from them, and then just violently assaulted everybody. Towards the end, one gentleman even picked up a 10 to 15 pound rock, held it over my head. And although I've witnessed a lot of things that day, for a couple seconds I knew he actually won it. and was planning on dropping the rock on me, and a couple of his friends managed to calm him down, thank God, and he left. But I've never seen anything like that in my life. It was like, you know, the stories you hear about Eastern Europe right now.
The verbal threats and assaults began immediately just there. It was very intimidating, very scary. There were only 8 of us. There had been people there who'd just come to go on hikes, and they built up on the other side of the bridge, and then it just came as a wave. They were coming down the road. A bunch of them were already up in the trees, and they just immediately started trashing the camp. I was punched in the head, thrown to the ground, hit. I was able to get up. People were not able to give me first aid or attend to me. They were held back by the loggers. The camp was being destroyed at this time. Personal tents strewn, tarps ripped down. Private vehicles were invaded. People who were trying to hide in the truck, making emergency phone calls, had the phone destroyed, were broken into inside the vehicle, were assaulted. My friend Sheree had the video camera. She was covering it. I was covering her. We went down. There was probably at least 10, 12 men around us. Big men. They're all very big men.
My hand, when I was in my vehicle, I had gotten myself into the seat, and I was just trying to protect what was going on. And 2 gentlemen came in to try and pull me out from the side, and one grabbed these 2 fingers on the other hand, the other one grabbed those 2 fingers, and they pulled sideways and backing up, and then dragged me out of the vehicle by that hand to the side of the car, where I got a number of kicks to the kidneys and things like that.
They attempted to kill the tree sitter. They attempted to murder him. There were about 35 men below his tree. They began pelting him with rocks. They destroyed a bunch of his equipment and hit him in the head. A tree climber then went up the tree, cut down his equipment, and they burned it. Someone then started up a chainsaw and began cutting the tree the sitter was in, and cut it half the way through. He was finally stopped, but then they continued to fall other trees attempting to hit his tree, and took branches off of the tree that he was sitting in. And then an Interfor helicopter actually came very, very close, buzzed the tree to the point of shaking it and almost hitting it with his rotor blades in an effort to dislodge or psychologically intimidate him.
I'd like to say that the young people who were peacefully protesting up there for the preservation of the Stoltmann Wilderness I'm very proud to say, Canadian heroes. They are the best, I think, of what this country has to offer. I think it's absolutely shocking what was done to them, and justice must be done.
As far as these people provoking attack, these are peaceful, nonviolent, civil disobedience people practicing things that Martin Luther and Gandhi have practiced, and they're proud of what they do, and they stand up for what they do, and they stand there with a bold face. I understand Rick Slacko was on the news yesterday for Interfor, and he was claiming that the people in the camp had provoked this incident and brought it upon themselves. I also saw a gentleman from the IWA saying that these people, what did they expect? We're not going to buy them ice cream. And I assert that assaulting women and children violently, destroying probably close to $10,000 worth of gear, and emotionally and physically traumatizing people is not, it's quite different than not buying ice cream. At no point was there attempts made by this company to stop the violence.
Well, James Jameson, who's an employee of Western Canada Wilderness Committee, informs me that while he was on the ground, in the mud, being beaten by these thugs, a Mr. Haffey, an employee of Interfor, was filming him being beaten. And as he was filming him, he was laughing about it. James has told this to the Squamish RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, our federal police force. And yesterday, the RCMP obtained a search warrant for the offices of International Forest Products. Mr. Haffey and the people at Interfor told the RCMP that Mr. Haffey has handed over the tape to persons unknown, and Mr. Haffey believes that tape to be destroyed. In my opinion, Mr. Haffey and Interfor are lying through their teeth that that tape shows this crime being committed, and it's further proof that Interfor is a rogue company, a company that should not be allowed to operate on this planet and has a lot to answer for.
The attack was going on for hours. Like, our stuff was being taken from us and thrown into a huge fire that the Interfor employees made. They took every piece of film and equipment that we had and destroyed it.
The police arrived 15 minutes after the violence. This is the third time the police have arrived 15 minutes after the violence has ended.
You didn't know this answer yesterday, but how about today? Is Interfor investigating this incident that happened on Wednesday?
I think you'd have to check with Interfor. I believe they are, but I'm not aware of that. I'm not sure whether they are or they're not. You should check that with Interfor.
Why wouldn't you speak up and say, the media is usually considered to be a neutral party, watching what's going on, reporting fairly, honestly. You didn't say a word about the ban which excludes the media from that area.
No, that wasn't raised in court.
And why not?
Well, the media...
Why don't you want the media there? You could have said, and reporters as well. You could have included that in the court order.
Well, it wasn't an issue that I was concerned was there, and certainly the media could have raised that if they'd wanted to.
Are you worried that a violent incident like yesterday's might have been reported accurately, correctly, if people would have had video cameras, tape recorders there?
I'm not worried about that at all.
The judge has now extended that exclusion zone for a further kilometer. But what he's done is he's said that because Western Canada Wilderness Committee is in there documenting the oldest Douglas fir trees in Canada and other attributes of what we believe is Canada's finest national park proposal, he's given us the right to issue numbered ID to our volunteers and researchers to be able to go into that area, that exclusion zone, and continue our work. And we believe that we would also be able to issue such ID, for instance, to members of the media who otherwise would not be allowed in this zone.
I think there's all this frustration thinking that we're trying to take away their jobs, and that's not what it is at all. I think they're really confused about the point of the project that we have going. We've tried to talk to them about it. We've tried to reason with them. We've tried to explain what's happening. It's the corporation that we have a problem with, not the loggers. And the loggers are taking this really personally against us.
Well over $300,000 worth of company equipment was used this day for an illegal act. 100 individuals known to the company participated. Company radios were used to organize ride pooling. A company foreman smiled and waved at people as they drove in.
I have never come across a company like International Forest Products who behave like a band of thugs, are willing to allow their trucks and their employees to be involved in holding down young women on the ground and beating them, to maintain the right to cut down 1,000-year-old trees, beating people out of a sense of greed. And then not coming forward and realizing the error of their ways and at least trying with their actions to calm the situation down, but rather continuing to whip the situation up and put more young people at risk. I think that if people are buying wood products, just as they might look at the labels to see these days if they come from Indonesia, they would do well to look at the labels to see if they come from International Forest Products.